Sometimes the universe has perfect timing. Ready to be serious with someone who gets me. Her Instagram caption read 6 days after telling me she wasn't ready for anything serious. I stared at the photo of her holding hands with the yoga instructor she had always called. Not her type. The journal I found behind my desk later revealed she had known about the ring for my now ex-girlfriend. Lila 28F and I, Callum 30M, have been together for almost 3 years. We were practically living together for the last 18 months. She still had her own place, but spent 6 nights a week at my apartment. Half my space was filled with her stuff. 2/3 of the smells were hers: scented candles, essential oil diffusers, you name it. I work as a financial planner in Portland. She teaches yoga part-time and does some freelance graphic design work. Things were serious enough that both our families were intertwined. Holiday dinners, family events, the whole deal. 4 months ago, I started designing a custom engagement ring. Nothing flashy, but something meaningful that incorporated elements she had pointed out in jewelry she liked. I had been working with a local jeweler, putting aside money each month. The ring was about 3 weeks from being finished. Then last Thursday at 4:47 p.m., I get this text from her. "Hey, I have been thinking and I feel like we need to take a step back. I am not ready for anything more serious right now." That is it. No explanation, no phone call, no face-to-face conversation, just a text in the middle of my workday. I sat there staring at my phone, completely blindsided. We hadn't been fighting. We would literally had breakfast together that morning, and everything seemed normal. She had kissed me goodbye and said, "See you tonight." Now this. I tried calling her immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. I sent a text asking what was going on, but no response. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. I couldn't focus on work, so I told my boss I wasn't feeling well and went home early. When I got home, I just sat on the couch, surrounded by her things, trying to make sense of what had happened. I went from shock to anger to complete confusion. I barely slept that night. The next morning, Friday, I still hadn't heard from her. I called in sick to work. There was no way I could focus. Around noon, I finally replied to her text. "I understand. I respect your boundaries." Then I just sat there looking at all her stuff around me, and something snapped. If she wanted space, why should I be the one surrounded by constant reminders of her? I called my buddy Mike, who has a truck, and my brother Alex. Explained the situation and asked if they could help me move her things over the weekend. They both agreed, but Alex suggested I get a storage unit instead of trying to take it all to her place. Avoid a confrontation, keep things civil. I spent Friday night sorting through drawers and closets, separating her things from mine. It was emotional, exhausting work. I would find something of hers and get hit with a wave of memories, then anger, then sadness. I barely slept again. Saturday morning, Mike and Alex came over, and we spent the day carefully packing everything. I was determined to do this right. Wrapped her ceramic pieces in bubble wrap, boxed her books by category like she always kept them, made sure her plants were secure. By Saturday evening, we had everything packed into about a dozen boxes and bags. We rented a storage unit nearby, transported everything, and organized it inside. It was nearly midnight when we finished. Sunday morning, I changed my locks. Not out of spite, but because I needed a clean break. Then I sent her the access code and location of the storage unit with this message: "Your belongings are safely packed and organized in this storage unit. The rental is paid for 30 days. Her reaction was explosive. Within an hour of sending that storage unit info, my phone was blowing up with calls and texts, not just from her, but from her sister, her best friend Jen, even her mother. I didn't answer any of them. I wasn't ready to talk. I was still processing everything myself. That evening, Lila showed up at my apartment building. The security guard called up to say she was there. I went down to the lobby thinking we should at least talk face to face. It didn't go well. As soon as she saw me, she started crying and yelling at the same time. "I cannot believe you did this. I just needed some time to think, not this." She gestured wildly. "You packed up my entire life without even talking to me." I kept my voice level. "You said you needed to take a step back and weren't ready for anything serious. After 3 years together, that sounds like a breakup to me." "I never said it was a breakup," she shouted. People in the lobby were staring now, Then what exactly did you mean? I asked. I needed some space to think about us, about where we are going. I wasn't ready to, she trailed off. To get engaged. I finished for her. Her eyes widened. That set off another round of tears and accusations. She eventually left in tears after demanding her key back and learning I had changed the locks. Monday evening, I went to my car in the apartment garage and found a deep scratch down the driver's side door. I checked the security footage with the building manager, and surprise, it showed Lila's car entering the garage around 4 p.m. Then leaving 10 minutes later, I filed a police report with the footage. So here I am, wondering if I went too far. Part of me knows I could have handled this differently, maybe waited longer before packing her things, tried harder to have that conversation first. But another part feels like her text was pretty unambiguous, and all I did was take decisive action based on her stated wishes. Once the initial shock wore off. Update 1, the day after my post, I woke up to a group text from Lila's entire friend circle, about 8 people, some I barely know. The general theme was how I was being cruel and refusing to communicate by not allowing Lila to explain herself. One friend even suggested I was exhibiting classic toxic masculinity by shutting down emotional communication. I didn't respond. What struck me most was how none of them acknowledged that Lila had initiated the breakup. It was as if her text never happened, and I would somehow spontaneously decided to end things in the most dramatic way possible. When one friend texted me privately saying you could have at least talked to her before making such a drastic decision, I almost lost it. She was the one who made a drastic decision without talking to me. That afternoon, my boss called me into his office. Apparently, Lila's mother had called him, claiming she was concerned about my mental health and suggesting I might need some time off. My boss, thankfully, recognized this for what it was, an inappropriate attempt to mess with my employment. He assured me my job wasn't at risk, but documented the call with HR just in case there were further attempts. I was furious. Bringing my workplace into this crossed a major line. That evening, I finally heard from Lila directly again. She sent a long text saying she didn't mean it like that and was just feeling overwhelmed with how fast things were moving. She said she never expected me to literally remove her from my life and thought we would just spend a few days apart to think. I didn't respond. Part of me was tempted to ask what exactly she did mean by take a step back and not ready for anything serious, but I knew engaging would just prolong the drama. 2 days later, Lila's sister confronted me outside the gym. She was a bit more reasonable, admitting Lila could have communicated better, but still insisted I overreacted. When I asked why Lila keyed my car, her sister looked genuinely shocked and denied any knowledge of it. I showed her the security footage screenshots. She seemed embarrassed and left quickly. Sunday morning, I received a series of voicemails from Lila's mother. She had called repeatedly while I was asleep with my phone on silent. The messages started relatively calm but grew increasingly agitated. The final one accused me of manipulating her daughter and turning her friends against her with twisted versions of what happened. I deleted them all without responding and blocked her number. Things escalated further last week when I received a formal-looking letter from an attorney. It demanded the immediate return of all personal property plus compensation for emotional distress and temporary housing costs, since Lila claimed she didn't feel comfortable staying at her own apartment after our breakup. The letter also claimed I had illegally evicted her, despite her name never being on my lease, and her maintaining her own apartment the entire time, and demanded I cover the storage unit costs, plus an additional $5,000 for the intentional infliction of emotional distress. I immediately contacted my friend Jake, who works as a law clerk. He laughed at the letter and pointed out several flaws. Lila was never a tenant at my apartment, so no eviction occurred. Her property wasn't being withheld. I had provided full access to everything. The emotional distress claim was legally baseless. And most importantly, the letter came from a family law attorney with no experience in landlord-tenant cases. Jake helped me draft a response stating that all of Lila's property was safely stored and accessible to her 24/7, that no legal tenant relationship ever existed, and that any further baseless legal threats would result in me seeking attorney's fees. We also included a gentle reminder that I had footage of her damaging my vehicle, which constitutes criminal mischief. The day after we sent that response, I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. It turned out to be Lila's mother. The message was long and rambling, calling me heartless and claiming I had led her daughter on only to discard her cruelly. She demanded I be a man and meet with Lila face to face. I blocked the number immediately. A few days later, I was having dinner with my friend Mike when he mentioned something odd. He said he would run into Lila at a KF, and she had been with a guy who seemed very friendly. Mike didn't think much of it at the time, but in light of everything else, it made him wonder. He couldn't remember the guy's name but thought Lila had introduced him as a coworker from the yoga studio. This was the first potential clue about why Lila might have suddenly wanted to take a step back. I remembered there was an instructor at her studio who she mentioned occasionally, Jason. I think she had always been dismissive about him, saying he was full of himself and not her type at all. Through all of this, I have maintained complete radio silence with Lila herself. The storage unit remains paid up, and as far as I know, she hasn't retrieved her things yet. The deadline is coming up in about 2 weeks, and I am not sure what happens if she doesn't empty it by then. I suppose I will cross that bridge when I come to it. One strange thing, a couple of mutual friends have been oddly quiet, and one canceled plans with me last minute. I am getting the feeling there is something about this situation. I don't know yet. The way people are acting, it is almost like they are embarrassed to face me. It reminds me of how friends act when they know someone has been cheated on but aren't sure if the person knows yet. Meanwhile, I have been focusing on moving forward. I have started playing basketball again on Tuesdays with an old group of friends I would somewhat neglected during my relationship with Lila. I have reconnected with my brother, who never really got along with Lila. He thought she was too self-absorbed. Oh, and I got the estimate for my car repair, $790. I haven't decided whether to file an insurance claim or ask Lila to cover it directly. My deductible is $500, so it might be worth just paying out of pocket. Part of me wants to send her the bill as a matter of principle, but another part just wants to put this whole mess behind me and move on. Update 2: I was wrong. The calm was just the eye of the storm. I was at my gym on a Tuesday evening when I ran into Mark, one of Lila's co-workers from the yoga studio. We have always been friendly, and he asked how I was doing with everything. When I gave a non-committal answer, he looked confused and asked, "So you are really okay with the whole engagement thing?" I had no idea what he was talking about. Seeing my genuine confusion, Mark got uncomfortable and tried to backtrack, saying he must have misunderstood something Lila had said. I pressed him for details, and he reluctantly explained that about a week before Lila sent me that step-back text, she had panicked during a staff lunch when someone mentioned seeing me at a jewelry store. Apparently, she told her co-workers she wasn't ready to get engaged and didn't know how to tell me. This hit me like a ton of bricks. I hadn't told anyone about the ring except my best friend and my parents. The jeweler's shop isn't even in our usual part of town. Someone must have spotted me by complete coincidence. Mark went on to share more. "I thought you knew by now," he said. "She has been telling everyone at the studio that you two had a mutual understanding that things were winding down, and that is why she started seeing Jason so quickly afterward." Jason, the name confirmed my suspicions. He is another instructor at her studio. The one who she had always claimed was definitely not her type whenever I mentioned him. The same guy who had sent her flowers from the team on her birthday last year. The same guy she told me was probably gay when I asked about him. I thanked Mark for being honest and assured him I wasn't upset with him. On my way home, I canceled the ring order, got back about 74% of my deposit, around $2,000, and saved the receipt as documentation. That night, I decided to look at Lila's Instagram for the first time since our breakup. I had been avoiding all social media to give myself space to heal, but after Mark's revelation, I needed to see for myself. What I found confirmed everything. 6 days earlier, she had posted a photo showing her holding hands with someone across a restaurant table. The caption read, "Sometimes the universe has perfect timing. Ready to be serious with someone who gets me." The irony of her using the phrase "ready to be serious" wasn't lost on me, the exact opposite of what she had told me in her breakup text. I didn't need to see the face in the photo to know it was Jason. I recognized the distinctive turquoise bracelet he always wore. In the comments, her friends were gushing about how happy she looked, and how some things are just meant to be. One comment from her sister said, "Finally seeing you with someone who appreciates your free spirit." I scrolled back through her feed and noticed she had posted several photos from group outings at the yoga studio over the past few months. Jason appeared in most of them, often standing next to Lila. In one photo from 2 months ago, they were demonstrating a partner yoga pose, looking very comfortable with each other. The signs had been there all along, but I had trusted her when she dismissed him as a colleague she barely tolerated. I wasn't even angry anymore, just disappointed at how unnecessary all this drama had been. If she had just been honest about wanting to be with someone else, I would have been hurt but would have respected it. The next day, I changed my phone number, switched to a different gym location, and altered my route to work. I wasn't running away. I was simply removing any possibility of further coincidental meetings. 2 days later, Lila's younger sister Emily messaged me on Instagram. Unlike the rest of her family, Emily and I had always gotten along well. Her message was simple: "You deserve to know the truth. Lila's been interested in Jason for months. She told me she wasn't ready for anything serious with you, but wanted to see what might happen with him. I am sorry." I thanked Emily for her honesty and asked her to keep our conversation between us. She agreed but warned me that Lila was telling people I had been controlling, and that is why she needed space. According to Emily, Lila had crafted a narrative where she felt suffocated by my expectations and had to break free. Emily also revealed something I hadn't known. Lila had asked Jason out for coffee the very day after sending me the step-back text. They had been seeing each other secretly for at least a week before she told any of her family about the breakup. The timeline made it clear that this wasn't a case of moving on after a breakup. The breakup itself was engineered to pursue someone else. That was the final straw. I had my friend Jake draft a formal cease and desist letter regarding harassment and defamation. We included screenshots of the Instagram post with Jason, the storage unit receipt, the car repair estimate, and evidence of the workplace call. The letter firmly stated that any further contact from Lila or her family, directly or through third parties, would result in me pursuing all available legal remedies. Jake delivered it to Lila's apartment personally. According to him, she broke down crying when she read it, claiming she never meant for things to go this way and that I was misinterpreting everything. She tried to tell Jake that there was so much more to the story, but he cut her off, saying he was just there to deliver the document, not discuss its contents. "You know what was interesting," Jake told me later. "She kept saying she didn't mean for things to end like this. But not once did she deny the relationship with Jason or the timeline. She was more upset about being called out than about losing you." The next day, Lila posted a long Instagram story about recovering from toxic masculinity and how men would rather send legal threats than communicate emotionally. She claimed to be healing from a relationship that stifled my growth and how some men just cannot handle strong women who know what they want. She didn't name me directly, but it was obvious who she meant. Interestingly, she deleted the story less than 48 hours later. According to a mutual friend, she got a lot of pushback in her DMs from people who knew both sides of the story. Apparently, several people pointed out the hypocrisy of complaining about communication when she had been the one to end things via text message and immediately start dating someone else. As for the storage unit, the 30 days were nearly up, so I extended it for another month and sent Lila an email with the updated information. I also clarified that after this extension, I would no longer be responsible for her belongings. She didn't respond, but the storage facility confirmed she had finally started removing items. Final update: about 3 weeks after my last post, I was shopping at a different grocery store than my usual one specifically to avoid running into Lila or her friends. Of course, that is exactly where I encountered her. Just my luck. She was alone, looking noticeably different. Her usually perfect hair was pulled back messily, and she wasn't wearing any makeup. When she spotted me, she froze for a moment, then approached hesitantly. "Callum, please, can we talk?" Her voice was quiet, almost timid. I simply said, "I think we have said everything that needed saying." She started crying right there between the produce and dairy sections. "Jason and I broke up. He was just using me to make his ex jealous, and it worked. They are back together now." I felt absolutely nothing. No satisfaction, no pity, no anger, just a strange sense of detachment, like watching a movie about someone else's life. "I made a terrible mistake," she continued. "I was scared about the engagement, but I should have talked to you. We had something real, and I threw it away for something that wasn't. Can we please just start over?" I looked at her for a moment, thinking about everything that had happened. "No, Lila, we cannot. You said you needed to take a step back, so I stepped all the way back to zero. We are permanent strangers now." She tried to argue, saying people make mistakes and deserve second chances. I simply replied, "Your mistake wasn't getting cold feet about an engagement. Your mistake was how you handled it and everything that came after. The car, the demand letter, Your family's harassment, the lies to our friends. Those weren't mistakes, they were choices. As I walked away, she called after me, so that is it. 3 years just gone. Just like that. I turned back one last time. You ended it with a text message at 4:47 on a Thursday. Everything since then has just been confirmation that it was the right ending. The strangest part, I felt lighter after that encounter, not heavier. Whatever lingering questions I had were answered. Whatever closure I needed, I got. A week later, I discovered something unexpected. While cleaning my apartment thoroughly, I found a small notebook wedged behind my desk. It was Lila's, filled with entries from the past year. I wouldn't normally read someone's private journal, but given everything that had happened, I made an exception. What I found was illuminating. Entries from months ago showed she had been having doubts, not just about marriage, but about our entire relationship. There were repeated mentions of feeling trapped and too settled at 28. One entry specifically mentioned Jason, and how he represented the freedom and passion she feared she was losing. The most telling entry was from 3 days before her step-back text. C went to Northridge today. Jen saw him coming out of Elliot's jewelry. I cannot breathe thinking about what that might mean. I am not ready. I don't think I will ever be ready with him. So there it was, confirmation that she knew about the ring and chose the coward's way out. I didn't keep the journal. I added it to the last of her things in the storage unit and sent her one final message letting her know it was there. She never acknowledged it. As for me, I am doing better than I expected. I donated all the things she left behind after the storage unit deadline passed. She took her valuables, but left random items. My apartment feels like my space again. No lingering sense of essential oils. No yoga mats in the corner. Just my stuff arranged the way I like it. I have reconnected with friends I had neglected during the relationship, and even started seeing someone new. Nothing serious. Just casual dates with a woman who appreciates direct communication. It is refreshing.